Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give our praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Hakwadash. Giving double honors to the elders and apostles at Great Millstone who taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. Peace and salutations to the Akim, the brethren out there on the highways and byways, pushing this truth in 100% sincerity. And peace and salutations to the few and sincere sisters who believe in this gospel. So I want to entitle this lesson, He who humbleth himself shall be exalted, right? And I want to speak about really just having a spirit of humility and not being too high-minded, right? You know, there's a situation with this dude. Now, I've never met him. You know, I don't know him personally, but I know the brothers in KC have met him, and our camp head here in St. Louis, the brother Rod, he's met him before. The guy out there in Topeka, Kansas, who's talking about, you know, he's John, he's a part of the 12, and, you know, kind of talking, you know, trying to ridicule the apostles and elders. So I'm not going to necessarily speak on him per se, because I don't know him. I've never met him before, you know, but I am going to speak on that spirit of being high-minded, that spirit of wanting to be exalted, that spirit of wanting to be in you know, a high place or a place of high regard in this ministry, right? Being over people, you know, having that desire to have that spirit, right? I was watching the series Avatar, The Last Airbender, the one that's on Netflix. I remember watching the cartoon as a kid, but now they got I guess, a remake of it on Netflix with, you know, real people and everything like that, right? And you got the main character, Aang, right? So he's the last airbender, and he is the next avatar. The avatar is a person who can master all four of the elements, you know, air, fire, water, earth, right? So, you know, it showed him, because his you know, his basically his nation of people, the airbenders, got wiped out by the Fire Nation, right? But before they got wiped out, you know, he was talking to his instructor, I believe, right? And it had just been revealed to him that he was the next avatar, and he was kind of upset about it because he didn't want that responsibility, you know. He didn't want that responsibility. He didn't want to be in that position, because with that position, now everybody's looking to you to basically restore peace and harmony in the entire earth, because you're the only one who can master all four of those elements, right? So he says something, and the reply to what he said by the instructor is a real spiritual reply, right? So Aang said, you know, why does this have to be me? I don't want to be the avatar. And the instructor said, that's exactly why you will be one of the greatest avatar, or that's exactly why you're the perfect person to be the next avatar, right? And when you think about that, that's a very true and a very spiritual statement, because he's not looking for that responsibility, but, and you can say in a sense, the Most High put that responsibility on him. The Most High chose him to handle that responsibility, even though he didn't want it. And that's a spirit of humility, and that's a spirit of somebody who is ready to handle particular responsibilities. Whereas you have somebody who is looking to be in that position, who is looking to have that power, looking to have that notoriety and regard, and to be over, you know, to be over people. Those are typically going to be the worst people to put in those positions, because they're usually 9.9 times out of 10, they're doing it for their own self-gain, right? For their own egotistical purposes, right? They're doing it for their own regard, right? To have their own status heightened, and because they want to be able to, they want to have that ability and respect to rule over people, And usually those are 9.9 times out of 10, those are going to be the worst people to have in those positions, because they're not going to truly respect the position that they're in. They're not going to truly take care of and really hone in on the responsibilities that position holds. You know, and those are typically the people that are going to be, you're going to have issues with, and they're essentially going to lose that position, right? But let's go into the scriptures, and let's go to Luke chapter 18, starting at verse 10, and it reads, it says, 2 men went up into the temple to pray, the one a Pharisee and the other a publican. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself, Yahweh, I thank thee that I am not as other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican. I fast twice in a week. I give tithes of all that I possess. And the publican, standing afar off, would not lift up so much as his eyes unto heaven, but smote upon his breast, saying, Yahweh, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone that exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted, right? So this is the parable of the publican and the Pharisee. And the Pharisees thought that because they were doing these works, they were doing these things, fasting, praying, which we should pray, and we should fast as well. But we don't fast to use that as an avenue to put yourself above somebody else, right? Because we do give thanks to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah that we have this truth, we have this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. But we don't use that to put ourselves above, especially those who are in the truth, who may not be like as built up as we are per se. Or let's say it like this, like IUIC, for example. We always get on IUIC because IUIC always tries to exalt themselves for the works that they say that they do, right? They always try to exalt themselves and say that, oh, we keep all of the laws, we keep the Sabbath, we got a fringes on, and because we do all of these things, we're the men of the Lord, right? But yet they go off on a doctrine, yet they have a lot of faults in their camp, and they basically worship Bishop Nate. It's basically how it is. They basically worship their leader, Bishop Nate, who was a haughty and high-minded man, a high-minded individual, right? So this is the same thing, right? It's the same situation as the publican and the sinner. What you're supposed to be is you're supposed to be like the publican, right? You're grateful that you even have this opportunity to even learn this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. You're grateful that Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai even put the spirit on you to be able to even get it. So with that being said, we're supposed to look at that as a blessing. We're not supposed to look at that as something to hold over people's heads. Although yes, we do rebuke. And when other people who go into the scriptures are going into the scriptures wrongfully and incorrectly, we do get a little harsh. We do get a little, how can I say it?
Sign into your vehicle before driving.
People will call us arrogant, right? But it only seems that way because we're getting on you and we're correcting you, right? But we also understand that at any point in time, if the Lord deems so, he can take us out this truth, right? So again, we're not supposed to look for a high position to be over people for the status, which is what some of these Israelites do. They want that status. They want that notoriety. They want the money. They want filthy lucre, right? That's why some of them in some of these camps took the bag. It's the book of Sirach, chapter 32. And let's start at verse 7. It says, "Speak, young man, if there be need of thee, and yet scarcely when thou art twice asked. Let thy speech be short, comprehending much in few words. Be as one that knoweth, and yet holdeth his tongue. If thou be among great men, make not thyself equal with them. And when ancient men are in place, use not many words," right? See, a lot of people, they get around, and when it's talking about great men, it's talking about men who have put in work, time, made sacrifices, right, for years. Our apostles and elders have been doing this, have been teaching this truth for 40 plus years. You know what I'm saying? So for somebody to make, and I don't know how long that dude was in the truth or whatever, but you ain't been teaching them, you ain't been teaching that long. So to make yourself equal with them, right, saying that I'm a part of the 12, number one, you're making a fool out of yourself, right? You're looking dumb. You're making yourself look dumb. You're being unwise, right? And now you basically just separated yourself from the body because you don't want to humble yourself. And now everybody look at you funny. Let's say you do repent. Now we'll accept you if repent, but now you got to reprove yourself. You got to re-show that I ain't this person no more, right? You know, I was going off for doing this. I was going off for moving this way, right? So let's go here to the book of Sirach, chapter 23 and verse 14, and it reads, it says, "Remember thy father and thy mother when thou sittest among great men, be not forgetful before them. And so thou by thy custom become a fool, and wish that thou hast not been born, and curse the day of thy nativity," right? See, you trying to speak, and you trying to make yourself equal and put yourself on the same level as men who have way more works than you do. You're just making a fool out of yourself, man. The best thing to do is just focus on your work. Focus on what you're doing. The scriptures say, seek thine own salvation with fear and trembling, man. Focus on what you got to do. Focus on what you're doing, making videos, going out to the highways and byways, being brotherly. You know what I'm saying? Just making a good name for yourself amongst the body, amongst the brotherhood, right? Now you have basically given that up. You've basically kind of thrown that away. And you know what? I realize, number one, how valued the bodyhood is, or the brotherhood is. It's basically a network of brothers where, hey, any city you go to, you can be like, hey, man, I'm gonna be in this city. You know, I want a fellowship of brothers. You know, be able to meet brothers, things like that. You know, and you know, you can meet up with brothers, and it'd be like y'all have known each other for years. You know, I've had that experience, you know, multiple times, meeting brothers from different cities. You know, it was about what, I'd say maybe 2 years of me being in Great Millstone before I actually started to meet brothers from other cities who didn't, you know, they didn't travel St. Louis. But when I started to, you know, sometimes just mainly just end up in different places. But, you know, we travel a little bit, you meet brothers, and it's like, hey, man, it's like y'all damn near grew up with each other. You know? And that's a beautiful thing, man. That's an asset. That's an asset to have. You know, why would you want to try to come against that and exalt yourself? You know, exalt yourself higher than what you may be. Especially if brothers have been showing you love, been being brotherly to you, and everything like that. There's no reason for that. So you got to be in the spirit of humility, man. You gotta, you know, you can't try and look at yourself as too high when it comes to this truth. You know, you should have self-confidence. Yeah, you should have some self-belief, right? But when it comes to the truth and the ministry, you got to understand where you at. You got to understand who you are. And you got to know, hey, you know what? I ain't the apostles and elders. And nor do I want to be the apostles and elders. I want to be who the Lord has made me out to be. And if the Lord gives me a greater responsibility, which is actually, in my opinion, that's really a more of a scarier thing than something to hope for, you know. But if the Lord does give you a greater responsibility than what you have, then, hey man, pray to the Lord that you be able to, you know, that you have the spirit and the discipline to be able to handle those responsibilities. Just as Solomon prayed. Solomon prayed that he gained the wisdom to be able to lead his people. And the Lord gave him the wisdom to lead his people and much more. You know? And what I'm seeing is like, man, you know, as you go on, you kind of grow into certain things. It's not necessarily anything that you ask for. It's just kind of what you grow into. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, or it's not what you're consciously going out for. It's not me, all right, I'm consciously trying to be the next head of the camp or second in command or this and that, whatever. Nah. You just grow into certain roles and certain positions within the body of the camp that you're in. And, you know, it just kind of happens. It's not something that you really pursue, right? It's the book of Isaiah chapter 57 and verse 15. Let me start at verse 13. It says, when thou criest, let thy companies deliver thee, but the wind shall carry them all away. Vanity shall take them, but he that putteth his trust in me shall possess the land, and shall inherit my holy mountain, and shall say, cast ye up, prepare the way, take up the stumbling block out of the way of my people. For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy, I dwell in the high and holy place, with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble, and to revive the heart of the contrite ones, right? Humble, humility, and humility and contrite, being humble and contrite, right? You're sorrowful that you have not lived up to the standards that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah has set in place since the beginning of time. You're sorrowful that in your past lives, you know, we've gone off. We've treated the Heavenly Father with disrespect and contempt. We're sorrowful that even in this life, growing up in the world, we didn't seek this truth earlier. Right? And we be humble that we truly value the opportunity that we have, that we value the position that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai has put us in, right? That's how we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to be looking to this truth to try and be some mighty, holy, great man. Like I said, if you grow into that, you grow into that. If the Lord puts a particular responsibility on you, let Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah do it, because it'll happen in a way to where, okay, you and everybody else around you will know that it was of the Lord that you're in this position.
Please sign in to vehicle.
It ain't gonna be no, oh, I tried to do this. I set out to do this. No, you should just set out to handle your responsibilities in the ministry. And Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah will exalt you if he sees fit. So with that, man, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem Chakwarash. Lord willing, this video lesson was edifying. And until next time, shalom.